So Genndy, let's talk about how this movie came to be, because it has been quite an epic journey to bring us here right now.
Yeah, in the movie, I first had this idea in around, I think, 2008. And basically it was, like, we all have a group of friends since we've known since childhood, and my friends make me laugh like crazy. And I love our dynamic. And I always thought, like, well, can I take this energy and this idea and translate it into animated characters, into like an adult film? And so I thought, like, yeah, that could work. And at the time, I think the Judd Apatow movies started to happen. So I realized, like, yeah, he's doing the same thing, And so that was my pitch. So I went to Sony Animation, ironically, first, and I gave my pitch. And Hannah Minghella, who was part of animation, she loved it. She got what I was going for. But she goes, you need a concept to wrap this around, right? And it was one of those things that never usually happen, but I'm sitting there, and as she's saying it, like, lightning strikes me. I don't know if it was the animation gods talking to me or whatever. And it just goes, oh, well, what if it's a dog and he finds out he's going to get neutered in the morning?
And it just came to you like that.
It was literally just like that. And everybody in the room laughed. And then we started writing. It got bought in the room, basically.
Yeah, and how long have you been working on it from then to now?
Right, and then we do a script, and then she gets promoted and leaves animation, and then the executives come in, and they go, no, thank you. And then we start on this journey of, like every year or so, I would try to pitch it somewhere else. We would punch up the script, and, and it was, if you can think back to 2008, it's still like Simpsons, maybe Family Guy. Adult Swim is just kind of starting. So adult animation is very in its infancy still, and especially in features, there's like none. And so it was very hard. And then also the 2D of it all was very hard because, back then nobody wanted to make 2D movies.
So in that case, then let's talk a little bit about that adult animation landscape and how it's changed, because we're really in a great place for adult animation right now. More than ever, we've got people watching anime from all over the world. We've got shows like, coming Big Mouth, and then obviously there are other shows that are really hot right now. How did seeing adult animation kind of have this surge? I don't even know if it's a resurgence, but this kind of new era. How did that change how you approached Fixed and how you were taking it out?
Well, it kind of didn't, because I had it already. It was already adult. Like my initial inception of it was kind of like this, basically. Different gags, different story plots, but generally this was idea to do kind of like a raunchy character comedy not with one-liners about pop culture, but just from characters. Seinfeld obviously is the best example of that, and so that was always the goal. And like basically, everything was catching up to it. Because then you have all the Adult Swim starts to get really big, Rick and Morty and stuff. Then Netflix adult stuff gets, also starts to get really big. And now it's the most accepted, the most successful shows. And, the kids' business is gone. Right, basically, which is really sad because, when we made Dexter and, whatever, SpongeBob, all those shows, those were for 6 to 11. And, we talk about this all the time, that business has disappeared and nobody's making it. And I always say, I go, you mean if I brought you SpongeBob right now, you would say no? And they're like, yeah, I don't think we would make it.
Yeah, and especially because those shows had such long runs every season too. So it's a completely different way of making TV.
It's a $1 billion a year industry for, T-shirts and blankets and all that stuff. And it's disappeared. I know Disney's doing a little bit because it's Disney. But otherwise, Cartoon Network is, suffering because the audience just isn't there. And I believe just one good show would bring it back, but nobody believes me.
Do you have that one good show in your back pocket?
No.
Well, how does it feel then to be in a situation where not only did Fixed get made in the way you wanted it to get made, with an incredible cast, and it found a home at Netflix, and not only that, but now you're here screening it. What does it feel like to have just had an audience watch this and know that it's going to be available, all over the world soon?
I keep waiting for it to get canceled. Because every review that comes out, every screening, I always worry, somebody's going to pull the rug out from under me. And while we were making the movie, it was every week. They're like, we're still making this, right? We're still making this. And every time we would get a story note, are they going to cancel it? Are they going to cancel it? Because it's so unusual, to do R-rated, hand-drawn, well-animated, character-driven, original movie.
Yeah. And something else I really loved about it is it's not just adult in a obviously very raunchy, like kind of rom-com sex comedy way, but there's also like gore. Like you were also like, okay, what else can we do in R-rated? Like, let's just kill these girls, So could you talk a little bit about, you've always been, I think, at the forefront of pushing boundaries of what animation kind of thinks it can be. So what was it like to get to do that in this space where you were getting to make a feature-length R-rated animated movie and we're kind of given that free creativity?
And it's an interesting question because it is like you have to push the industry, like I feel like in baby steps. Like, yeah, I could easily do, and I have, a project that's a dramatic action, like a Ridley Scott type film, but it's animated for adults, but nobody's ready for that. I mean, I'm sure you guys are ready for it, but the Guardians are not ready. And so they tell me, they go, we don't know who the audience is for this. And Fixed is just like that. So, like maybe there's criticism that it's so raunchy and stuff, but it's like the first step, right? So let me show you that this can work, that we can do, basic, funny, physical humor, character comedy, some heart. All these things can feel like a good movie that's R-rated. And then if that opens the door, oh, now I've got this.
Yeah, because I mean, we have had it, in the past, obviously, something like Grave of the Fireflies, like a really traumatizing movie but the American studio system does seem to have not caught on yet to this idea of like animated films for adults.
And you can never bring up the success of Miyazaki or any of that. And I could never even say that because I'm not Miyazaki, And so, in Japan and Europe, adult animation is much more accepted. And so here we're just trying to, it's again like that first step in through the door. And then if it's not an IP, they'll make a Simpsons movie.
Yeah. If you're talking about this as kind of a gateway to adult animation, you really do a great job of bringing a lot of the humor and character of traditional kind of Looney Tunes or Hanna-Barbera. There's a lot of like cartooning history here that I think people will recognize from kids stuff, and then hopefully that will let them into the kind of saucier, sillier, like crazier aspects. So could you talk a little bit about your influences on working on this?
And it's funny because it's kind of happened not purposely, because basically my sensibility is, Tex Avery, without the buggy eyes, but just the style of animation. Warner Brothers, Popeye, Hanna-Barbera, it's even 50s Disney especially. It's all part of the things that I really love, especially Tex Avery and Looney Tunes. And so when we got to do this, that's the animation that I love. That's I'm very comfortable with it. It's not like I need to do research. What is cartoony animation? I know it like the back of my hand. And it was even really comforting to me because we hired these amazing animators from all over the world. People who worked on Roger Rabbit, some ex-Disney animators. So these guys were the real deal, right? And then when I was giving them direction and we were talking about scenes, they were like, oh, yeah, you really know your stuff. And it was because, it made me feel very warm because deep inside, I've always just wanted to be an animator.
Yeah.
And so then what happened was we did the movie and the animation, and the animation became, because it was successful, it felt nostalgic, And so it gave this accessibility to this movie so that everything isn't new. You're like, oh, that animation is somewhat familiar to me because it's cartoony and expressive and extreme. It's something that I've seen before, but then this material is a little bit more pushed. So it became. I always feel like it made the audience a little more comfortable. Accepting the balls and the buttons and all that stuff.
Well, speaking of that aspect of it, was there a specific gag that made it into the film that just absolutely killed when you were like talking about it with the crew making the movie? Do you remember one where people were just kind of losing their mind?
Well, the climax.
Yeah. Pun very intended.
That scene was my test, basically. And I don't know how many executives, when they read the script, said, well, maybe we'll do the movie, but you got to cut this scene out. And I go, well, then you don't understand this movie, because it literally is all about this scene. And for myself as a director, writer, whatever, the goal is to have a sequence where everybody's laughing from beginning to end. And those are really hard sequences to come up with, right? Because sometimes there's a good joke here and there, but otherwise people are just enjoying it. But that's one of the few sequences where people start to giggle, and then you get it, and you start to laugh, and then you kind of squirming and laughing all through the thing. And it was because we were working with Sony Animation and New Line at the time. Mm-hmm. And so the executives, especially from Sony, used to do just family films.
Yeah.
Right? And so this is like an R-rated film they had to give notes on, and it's shocking, right? And I remember our first screening, just the first act, and when we started drawing it and I was boarding it, I'm like, right, there's a lot of butts. But when you go out in real life and you see dogs, there's the butthole. You don't think about it, and sometimes there's balls, but it's like, all right, there it is. You don't,
Well, that is kind of an
moving on.
That's kind of an interesting fact, actually.
Let me just finish the story real quick.
Please.
Sorry. And so they watched the first act, and the first thing they said was like, "Wow, there's so many butts and buttholes, or many balls and buttholes." And I go, "Yeah." And we had this 30-minute intellectual conversation. Is it too much? Is it not enough? Like, what are we doing and everything? And
how did you land on the correct amount of buttholes?
We had to count every frame.
It's that recut version of Cat where they added buttholes.
Like, I know my sensibility isn't gratuitous. And so I kind of trusted my gut. Like, this feels, like there's no dog penises. Everything is in good taste.
Yeah. Use that as the poll line, guys. Made by famous family studio Sony Animation. One of the things that I'm really interested to ask you about, you mentioned that this was based on your friends and kind of this friendship group. Does it feel weirdly vulnerable to put yourself and your friends up there in such an outrageous, like people are going to be like, okay, so how did your friends influence this story?
I never thought about it that way. No, it makes me feel good because it is, look, they're very exaggerated personalities. But they laugh, like especially the guy who Lucky is based on. Yeah. He's like, so I eat cat shit, like really? So, and I go, look, it's a joke. It's he's still lovable. Everybody loves Lucky and whatever. And so that part of it is good. And actually, I was in the movie as a Russian husky dog, and but I cut myself out because it was kind of too many dogs. And
you were like, this is one too many dog buttholes.
It is, yes.
When it comes to kind of, you touched on this, but what was the process like of animating it, and how incredible was it to kind of see what you'd been working on for so long start to come to life in this really beautiful traditional animation?
It was incredible because I never thought I would get it at this level, honestly, because it's a low-budget movie, and so I made a list of 10 animators that I wanted to work with all over the world, and we got, I think, 8 of them. Which was incredible. And then they started doing it, and they were animating, because they got to go faster than, a normal feature studio. And so they started animating, and the scenes were incredible, much more fuller and stronger than I ever imagined. I thought we would get like a TV plus quality, right? But now we're getting really theatrical quality animation. And then they would start seeing each other's scenes and start feeding off of it, and everybody would, watch a scene and everybody would laugh. And also they were energized because they've never worked on material like this before. It's either like princesses or, not there's stuff wrong with that, but it's, it's very kind of repetitive.
Yeah.
Here's the handsome male hero or whatever. And now there's like, oh my God, there's this crazy dog, this, and the balls come alive, and you got to do all,
The balls do come alive. They are characters in the movie. I think one of the things as well that really struck me when I was watching this was that, you really get it. I've been saying to people, like, that first 10, 15 minutes, they are saying that's the test. Is like, do you think this is funny, and can you commit to it? And if you do, I was really surprised by how much kind of heart and sweetness and this kind of story of acceptance acceptance between these friendship groups. So could you talk a little bit about why that was just as important as the gross, crazy, kind of saucy stuff?
It was. It's if the characters didn't work, then the movie would fall apart. Because like basically after those first 10 minutes, you're like, oh, I get it. It's just this joke, you know? And so we had to, it's always about the characters. Even for me, it's even beyond the story. If you can make the characters and the emotions and the relationships between the characters make the audience feel it, then it would be successful. And it was, you know, like Primal was kind of my biggest slap in the face with that realization where Primal, I thought, well, it's going to have all this sexy violence, right? And people are going to really just comment on the violence. Meanwhile, I'm working so hard to make this relationship between, you know, a man and beast. And then when the reactions came out, once we premiered, it was all about the emotions. You know, it was so gratifying. And this was the same thing. You know, number one, you have to have it be funny. You know, that's super important. Two, the characters have to shine, right? And then three, all the kind of the shocky, more type of humor exists. And we have, you know, dog humor. You know, I'm a dog owner, so I wanted to bring all of that. So we always like to think that we have all these different levels of comedy, you know, and it's fine. So it's not for everybody, right? Like when the trailer came out, I was like, whoa, everybody relax.
It's okay. No one's going to force you to go and watch it, guys. Like
right.
You have a choice. Exactly.
And so, and then, you know, some positive and stuff, but I kind of take for granted that to me, this is kind of soft. Mm-hmm. It's not really me pushing. Like we could have made it so gross. Every wrinkle and nook and cranny of everything could have been disgusting. Mm-hmm. So we kind of, you know, controlled ourselves.
Yeah, that's for the sequel. So when it comes to kind of, not only did you get this incredible level of animation, which is so important to you, but the voice cast is also pretty incredible. So could you talk a little bit about kind of getting to hear those characters brought to life by these incredible actors like Idris Elba, Adam Devine? Like, what was that like for you?
It was great, and it was very nerve-wracking once we started the casting process because, look, it's a R-rated movie, right? It's not everybody's thing, and we would get some rejections. You know, and so I was getting nervous, like, I know the studio needs a name, right? Because that's, you know, people who are going to help sell the movie. And then once we sent it to Adam, he totally got it, right? It's his brand of humor anyways.
Completely, yeah.
So that was the perfect fit. And then we had a list for Rocco, and Idris Elba was on the list. And I was like, there's no way. Like, they're talking about him becoming James Bond. How is he going to do, you know, this movie? And so we had some drawings, and we sent him the script and some drawings. And he loved it. He totally got it.
Totally got it.
And initially, the idea of Rocco was like a tough dog, right? So it was more of like a, hey, how's it going? Like almost like a Clint Eastwood type of read. So we were in the booth, and this was during COVID. So he was in London, I was at home.
Wow.
And on over Zoom and stuff. And he started acting, and he was like, Bo, how's it going? And he was like, huge. And then I was like, oh, but it's still really funny, and he's owning it, and I want him to have fun doing it. And he's like, I don't do a lot of this. Is this okay? And I'm like, yeah, it's great. Just relax, and, you know. And then so we kind of changed the way he talked and acted, and it all kind of fit in. And then the best story of all was Catherine Hahn. Mm-hmm. Because I worked with Catherine on Hotel Transylvania 3. And so we at least had a relationship. So, and she does lots of raunchy stuff, right?
Yeah. She's great. She's hilarious.
And writing for a female character is difficult, you know. And
you've got to be more thoughtful on it. It's not your experience. That kind of thing.
Sometimes, yeah. And so I always felt like we know Honey is the awesome girl next door, right? And she's also one of the guys in a way with Bull's best friend. But we were holding back a little bit on her. So we sent her the script, and she calls me. She's like, look, I love this, but I'll only do it if you write me as funny and raunchy as the guys, right? And so she gave me that permission, and we rewrote all her lines, and she just went crazy with it. It was her speech about when grandma comes over and riding her bony knees.
She's so funny.
I still love that line. It's so great.
Okay, now that the movie is about to be out in the world, we just had this incredible audience watch it. What are you most excited for people to kind of discover? Like, are you waiting for those reactions? Are you excited to see if it, like, what gag really connects? Like, is there something you're most looking forward to?
Yeah, I mean, I love what I was talking about, like the climax reaction, right? I think I'm excited for that, to see if there's going to be anger or just laughing, and that part, because there's so much character comedy in that also, right? And then generally, if people accept it to be funny, and the biggest thing, and this is a big hopeful dream, is if it opens a door, right? Were there another movie like it, another different type of adult movie, but just kind of nudge the industry forward, like, look, you can have other things. And so that's what I'm excited. Or if it just gets accepted and I still do what I do, is fine also.
Yeah, it's like just excited for people to see it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Genndy. I appreciate
Thank you.
Yeah, big round of applause. And I also want to thank Netflix and Den of Geek for making this screening possible. But yeah, thanks again. Let's have another round of applause for Fixed and Genndy.
Me. To the money then.